Hi YouTube, this is Randy with Eastgate for Old School, and you're in my skateboard corner, my hobby corner that I'm building up. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do this, but I want to display my skateboard somehow and also have a place to store all the tools that I have accumulated since I started this hobby. Also have a lot of spare parts, just a way to get all this stuff kind of out of the way and in a more convenient configuration. So this is the skateboard that I returned to skateboarding with about 6 months ago or so, and kind of got me started on this journey. And of course, this is the original build that I went through. I'm still enjoying it quite a bit. I get out there, I'd say 2 or 3 times a week. Actually, probably closer to 3 or 4 times a week. I get out and ride around the neighborhood. Really love these Cloud wheels. They're 120 millimeters. They carve really nice. I've talked a lot about the importance of these motor mounts. They're very stable, and I'm going to be using them on my new build. What you see here is the board that I'm using for my new build. But before I get into that, going back to the gear or the accumulated equipment. Part of that is just gear, and if you're going to do this hobby, you can't be so vain that you're unwilling to wear pads. If you're going to do electronic skateboarding, especially, well, really at any age, you better wear pads because you're going to fall and it's going to hurt. With pads on, it's not going to be that bad. Now, at the minimum, I recommend some knee pads, elbow pads, wrist guards, and of course a helmet. So back in the 70s and 80s, we rode bicycles and we rode skateboards and we never wore pads for anything. We pretty much got away with it. This is a different time. These things require pads. Otherwise, you're going to jack yourself up. So if you're too vain to wear pads, just don't even get into electronic skateboarding. It's just not going to be worth it. You're going to bust yourself up. But anyway, this particular episode is about the build of this board, and particularly this battery box, which is replacing this huge box that I have right here. So I'm able to take all the components that are in this huge box, and they all fit nicely into this nice small box right here. And as you can see, I have wires coming from the batteries that are going to go to the vest that's going to sit on the bottom on this build. And I'm thinking the motors are going to sit about right here. And I got bigger wheels planned for this. The wheels are going to be interesting to me because another YouTuber was saying that the larger 150 millimeter wheels didn't carve as nicely, and he liked Cloud wheels a lot better. So I'm kind of interesting to see if I have the same opinion on that. But anyway, I'm going to show you in warp mode, my build of this box right here. And I hope you enjoy it. If you like this video, please subscribe and like it and send me comments. I would love to have some suggestions from some of you out there that are more experienced that could give me some tips on what to do. I hope you like it. Thanks. Bye. Hello YouTube. So I'm sharing with you now my plan for my next Eastgate build. Most of this stuff came in the mail earlier this week. A few things are still on the way. I still don't have the vest, I don't have the remote, and I don't have the motors, and I don't have the motor pulleys. Everything else is pretty much on the way. So I'm going to start the build process. So you can kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like when it's done. Obviously the battery box is much smaller than my previous one and should look significantly better. I'm going to have the power cable go through the board underneath to this vest container, which will sit on the bottom right there. And then the plan is to have the motors go underneath the board instead of to the outside
for similar reasons why I did the opposite on the other board. With the other board shape, having the motors on the inside made them sit too close to the ground. So I put them to the outside so that they would have better clearance. In this case, on this board is already going to sit pretty high off the ground. So I'm going to have the motors come to the inside, and I think the motors will have pretty decent protection, seeing how they'll be on the other side of this vest enclosure as well. So I think they'll have a lot of protection on the inside there. This board has a nice concave shape to it. It's kind of flat in the middle, but then it raises on the outsides, which is a very nice shape. I think it's going to be very comfortable to ride. I had them put the grip tape on the board for me, and I think that's probably a mistake because it does have some bubbles in it, but I'll try to iron those out before it all comes together. So that's the overall plan. For this video, I'm going to focus on just doing this battery box and getting this together. It's going to be quite a challenge. I'm going to have the starter switch coming out to one side here, and while the battery indicator will be sticking out the other side. All the other electronics in the middle with the batteries on the two sides. So it's going to be a tight fit, but if I can manage to get it all together, I think it'll look quite nice. And of course, I'm going to be screwing this container to the board directly instead of having it just strapped on. So that'll also make it look really nice. So that's the plan. And I'll get started on the battery box now. So there was a bunch of footage that didn't make it because my GoPro ran out of battery, but it was pretty boring. So what I have done so far is I've drilled a hole in the middle here and put this starter switch through that hole, screwed that on there, so that's going to sit there. And then I drilled 4 holes and then drilled the rest of the hole out so I could put the battery indicator into the side of the box there. You can see some tool marks where I'm not so good with using the Dremel, but I got the job done. And now I'm going to place this battery box onto the board. Eventually I might get some sort of gasket to put underneath here to take up that gap, but I'm not too concerned with that right now. I'll just tighten it down as good as I can get it and go from there. So my battery box is nearly complete, and I'm going to test it out now. All right, we're now get everything, got the four corners screwed down, and I got the power button right here. You see that turn blue, and on the other side we got the battery indicator. So it's working just as I'd hoped. That's all that I'm going to do for today. I still have to get my VESC and connect that and do the build for the drivetrain, both of which will be similar to the last time I did it. This battery box is actually the most different thing and the biggest change from my previous build. I'm very happy to see it working. Can't wait to get the rest of this together. Thanks. I'll see you next time.